All right, welcome back, guys. My name is Jason, and I wanted to talk about. I wanted to follow up on the supercharger install on my 17 Miata RF here. So we got the supercharger installed a couple weeks ago. It's been a few weeks ago now, and I have finally gotten it out and done a couple of good runs with it out on some country roads here. We had a nice weekend about a week, 2 weeks ago. Where it was a nice sunny day. I was able to get it out and really go through it. So I've got some thoughts from that, and I have a little bit of footage. I learned a few things. Number one is the Edelbrock tune leaves a lot to be desired. It is not complete. It is not polished at all. I was really pretty disappointed in it. Number two, it is really hard to get decent in-car footage that's interesting to watch. Let's put it that way. This is probably my third take at recording this video here to share what I wanted to share. So we'll see how this one turns out. So yeah, back to the tune. I'll add in some clips of what I did record when I was out and about with the Edelbrock tune. And my thoughts, but the bottom line is, what I noticed is the motor feels really sluggish off of idle. It's almost like there's a dead spot in the throttle. If you're just cruising around like what I just did there, that wasn't any big deal. It's just not as lively as it was stock. You give it a little blip from idle, and it just didn't want to do anything like it used to. It would take a second, and if you're driving normally around town, just kind of cruising in town, you don't notice it too much. But if you try to rev match on a downshift or something like that, that's when I would really notice it. Trying to heel toe on a downshift, the motor was just laggy. And it really didn't come through on camera, so I don't really know how to show it, but it just didn't feel the same. And then the other big thing I noticed was around 3,000 to 4,000 RPM, there was this surging that was kind of intermittent. RPM, there's that little bit of a surge, especially at about half throttle or better. Doesn't happen all the time, but there is a little bit of a surge, and it'll kind of throw my head back where you can feel surging. So well, maybe not intermittent. It was pretty consistent between 3,000 4,000 RPM. If you're starting to give it some decent throttle, maybe half throttle or more, and you get up into that mid RPM band, you'd start feeling this surging, and it just felt like the car was getting a bunch of gas or something, and it would take off, kind of push me in my seat a little bit, and then it would go away. It was just this little pulse. I don't know how else to describe it. But once you got through that, you get up above 4,000, then the power would just come on all of a sudden, and it would take off, and felt really good from 4,000 all the way up to redline, and it felt like it was building good power consistently after that. So the top end was great, and when I got it out on some country roads and really wound it out, that felt great. I've got some clips of that as well that I'll try to insert in here somewhere. was wrong. And I think one of the reasons I had a hard time recording this, I went out a couple of times. I just kept thinking that I did something wrong during the install, that the bypass valve was getting hung up on something, or there was something else mechanically wrong with the install, but I couldn't figure it out. And so then a couple weeks ago, I had to go on a business trip. I had to go out to California for work, and on the trip back, I found myself stuck at the airport for several hours, which is another story. So I started reading on Miata.net on the forums, and I have read about Fab9's tune before and how good it was, but I'd never really deep dived into it and exactly what was solved, what the issues were. I just knew it was a really good tune. Everybody was really happy with it, that a lot of people were saying it solved some of these surging issues. At that point, I didn't understand what the surging issues were that other people were experiencing. Before I bought the Supercharger, I didn't understand what the surging issues were exactly. I knew they existed, and I knew it was on like the V1 through V3 or V4 versions of the Edelbrock tune, and that this was all a year and a half ago, and I hadn't heard anything recently. So one of the reasons I felt okay, or thought I would take the chance on the Edelbrock tune, is that it's been another year. Edelbrock has had time to continue to dial in their tune, and then I expected a lot of those issues to be gone, and that there probably wasn't a huge difference between the Edelbrock tune and Fab9's tune. So that's the reason I started with the Edelbrock tune, knowing that I could always change to the Fab9 tune for a couple $100 later on if I felt I needed it. And after this test drive and what I experienced, and then what I started reading on Miata.net while I was in California, made me think, yeah, I need to pull the trigger on it. So I spent 3 or 4 hours reading everything I could on what Brian at Fab9 did with his tune and all the issues he resolved. And as I started reading about exactly what other people were experiencing, it was checking off every box on my list of issues. So I decided that was it. I was going to pull the trigger. So I placed the order. Brian sent me the file a couple days later, and I went ahead and installed the tune. And I did all of this. I got the file late in the afternoon, I think on a Tuesday or something. So I came home from work. First thing I did was upload the tune into the car and take it out for a quick drive. And I did all of this so quick, I didn't throw a camera in or anything to the car. And I'm regretting that I didn't put a camera in, because that tune completely changed the feel of the car. It is night and day. I don't know why I'm surprised that a computer can make that much of a difference in the way an engine operates, the way an engine responds, but it did. The hesitation off of idle is completely gone. As soon as you get on the gas from 1,000 RPM all the way up to red line, it pulls and pulls and pulls and pulls, and there's no hesitation. The car feels like it did when it was stock, when it had that real lively, I described it like a hyperactive toddler kind of feeling to it, and that's been fantastic. So I've only had that one time with the Fab9 tune on it, and now I can't wait to drive the car again. Of course, now we've got 2 inches of snow on the ground and the roads are iced over and I can't get it out, so we'll have to wait. But the Fab9 tune is absolutely the way to go with the Supercharger. Completely changed it. There was absolutely nothing wrong with the install. All of that's correct. The car is running fantastic. There's no issues. It was all the tune. So completely, the bottom line is stay away from the Edelbrock tune and go with Brian's tune over at Fab9 tuning. That's it left me speechless. In fact, I made a post the same night that I went and drove it real quick. I made a post on Miata.net about it, and thanking Brian, because it's incredible what he was able to do with this thing. So yeah, now I can't wait to get it out again. So that's it. Yeah, so the Supercharger project is complete. Now it's on to the next thing. So I got to figure out what my next project's going to be. I think it's going to be, well, I shouldn't say I think. It's going to be an oil catch can. The more reading I've done about that, the more I'm convinced that these direct injected engines would really benefit from an air oil separator. So I'm going to get one of those ordered here soon, and we're going to walk through the install. So let me show you what I'm talking about there. Next up, I'm thinking I need an air oil separator, and I've been eyeing the Versus AOS unit. So my understanding is that thing mounts on a bracket where the sound tube used to go and would sit right here. I'm thinking there's just enough room for that to sit right in front, right down in here. There should be enough room. I'll have to move some wires, and obviously this hose will come up and connect here, and we'll have a hose running over there. The bummer is I'm going to have to pull the supercharger off here, so I'll have to pull the airbox, throttle body, battery, and ECU out of here to get that bolted in. But on the upside, you know, this will give me a chance, now that I've had the car out and run it pretty well, I'll have the chance to have clear access to those cooling hoses that are running down underneath the supercharger here, and make sure they're not hitting the steering arm. That's something I want to make sure. So I'll do that next, and then I'm also toying with the idea of pulling the valve cover off and painting it wrinkle red. I've seen some pictures online. I think someone else already did it, and it looks pretty cool. It might add that splash of color under here to just make things look a little bit cooler, you know. The sticker's worth 5 horsepower, so I figure some paint should be worth, what, 10, right? And then I need to detail under here. I need to give the engine bay a good wash. It hadn't been cleaned in over a year, so it's definitely due, especially now that I got that supercharger on there. I want to make sure this looks nice. So yeah, let me know what you think of that. I'd like to get some feedback on whether it makes sense to go ahead and paint this valve cover red. Alright, well that's going to do it on the supercharger project. Thanks for following along, really appreciate it. I've seen a little bit of growth on the channel, so that's been exciting to see. I appreciate all the positive comments I've gotten already for it. That's encouraging to see, and encouraging me to keep going with this, so that's always good. Yeah, I've got more projects coming, more projects in the works here, both on the cars and on the garage itself. So if you want to follow along, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, and we'll keep it going. So thanks much.